All right, guys, are you ready for the wild ride this evening? How you doing today, man?
Ooh,
Good. How you
wild
doing?
ride, okay. What we doing today?
Oh my goodness, the week is almost over. Ah man, time is flying. Is it me or is time really flying?
I'm
No,
like,
it's
Friday.
Friday.
Friday. I never heard that before. Friday. What?
Friday.
Did you make that up? Did you make that up?
Nah, I
Say
did
yes. Say yes. Take the credit.
that.
So how you guys doing? How's your week going so far?
So far, so good. I'll let the lady go. Always, ladies first, Patrice.
Man, it was a good week. We just did another show. We just came off of another show.
Yeah, I like that. Let me give you that. Let me give you that. Let me give you that. That was
Man,
nice.
we just did Culture TV. Next stop, Jamaica with Miss Brenda J. Pert, Tony
That was sweet.
directing.
That was
It was
sweet.
awesome. Yeah.
That was
That's
really,
good.
really sweet. I really enjoyed that. I got to tell you, that was some good footage, good content. And that show is called, you said Next Stop, Jamaica, right?
Yep. Next stop, Jamaica.
So she's in Jamaica until I think what, May, April, something like that.
She said like mid-April. Maybe she'll extend it to May. So we'll be bringing more content from Jamaica. Yes. Derek said he was watching it. Derek said he loved it.
Yeah, it was
Now,
good. It was good.
listen. I like that deep sea diving stuff that they were doing. You saw this. You saw the stuff with the lobster when he pierced the lobster.
Yeah,
that was crazy.
yeah. All I
you
wanted
can
was
watch
some
it.
butter and lemon.
So listen, we got a great show this evening, man. We have a great show. I'm really excited about tonight's guest because I am. I guess most people by now, if they know me, they know that I am a Hamiltonian.
Mhm.
And when you're a Hamiltonian, listen, Alexander Hamilton is so large. The musical, the play Hamilton, broke every record there is to be broken in terms of Broadway. I mean, that's how phenomenal that play was. And I just can't wait for us to be able to have. I have not seen the play. They did something on television, right? I don't remember what they did.
Yeah, there's
Right?
a televised version of it. Yep. I started watching it actually. I watched some of it, but then I had something come up, and so I had to go back. And now I'm inspired to really watch it
Yeah,
because
me
of
too.
today's guest. Yes.
Yeah. So the fact is, when I do get to see the play or see it on television, I don't know what to do with myself. I'm going to have my popcorn going. I'm going to have my, I can't say I'm going to have Coke because I can't drink Coke. So I have some unsweetened iced tea. How about that?
I'm
Right?
glad you
That's
clarified.
Why are you such a Hamiltonian, Tony? Like, why? Tell us.
Because his story is so incredible, right? But more important, that this person, when you look at what life threw at this young genius, you thought at some point, who would have ever thought this man would have gone on to achieve such greatness? But on top of that, he's from St. Croix. That's the part for me is the most phenomenal part about this, is because Alexander Hamilton, even though he was born in Nevis, he left Nevis as a child, as a baby, and his parents moved to St. Croix, and he grew up as a teenager, and he spent his most formidable time on St. Croix. And so when he left to go to New York, the community sent him off to the States, and he just, after he came out the gate, the rest is history. So his story is just incredible. I mean, he is what he's credited for. I'm not even going to get into it. I don't want to steal the thunder of our guest this evening, but we're going to get into that. But the stuff that he's responsible for, he is credited for creating modern America. There would be no modern America if it wasn't for this for this particular founding father. And so what I'd like to do is I'd like to bring in our guest this evening, and he's known as Wayne Nicholas. He is a friend and a colleague, and he has an incredible thing that he does here in St. Croix. He has a business where he does a daily tour showing he literally takes on the life of Alexander Hamilton. He becomes Alexander Hamilton, and he takes people around downtown Christiansted where Alexander Hamilton grew up. And let me stop right there. Let me bring in our guest. Let me bring him in. Let's have our good friend and guest here.
Hey.
All right. So
Hey. My name is.
Hey, man.
My name is Alexander Hamilton.
Yes, says so. Alexander Hamilton, welcome to the program.
Great.
I'm one of your biggest fans. I am just, besides myself being able to hang out with you, one of the questions I'm asking myself, Alexander Hamilton, what would Alexander Hamilton do if he was living in today's time with the craziness that's taking place in the country, how divided the country is, how hyper partisan everything is? I mean, what do you say, Alexander? I mean, what would Alexander Hamilton do at a time like this?
Well, I would pull it together like we tried to do back in those days. I'm an orphan immigrant from St. Croix and made it to America. It was very divisive back then. Today, I try to stay away from today's politics because they're using me on both sides, with the newspapers. You listen to the impeachment hearings of late. You hear both sides referencing what I said back in the day. So I try to stay away from the present day. But boy, if you want to talk about what I accomplished back then, I'm all over that.
Absolutely. And what I'd like to do is give some people some historical perspective.
Okay.
We're going to hear from you and your life as Alexander Hamilton.
Okay.
But I want to try to give people a little historical perspective. And
right.
There's a video I'd like to share with folks so they get a sense of who this man was. And when we come back, we'll have a discussion on this. Okay.
Super.
It would only be a slight exaggeration to say that Alexander Hamilton invented the United States of America. George Washington was the guiding star, Thomas Jefferson the visionary, Benjamin Franklin the sage. But Hamilton was the pragmatist, the man who got it done. This most self-made of self-made men took a country with no past and planned its future. He was born on January 11th, 1755, on the island of Nevis. This was not the Caribbean of your cruise fantasy. Quite the contrary. As Ron Chernow writes in his biography of Hamilton, while other founding fathers were reared in tidy New England villages or cosseted on baronial Virginia estates, Hamilton grew up in a tropical hellhole. Sugar plantations, slave auctions were a regular feature of island life. The spectacle, buyers swinging branding irons as they surveyed the human merchandise, made a permanent impression on Hamilton. He was a fierce abolitionist his entire life. Abandoned by his father at an early age, his mother died of yellow fever when he was 14, leaving the teenage boy destitute. A local judge had to buy him shoes so that he could attend her funeral. He soon took a job as a clerk for a local merchant. Before long, he was running the business, coordinating shipments of mules and codfish, calculating currency exchanges, and advising sea captains on how to deal with pirates. It was an unmatchable apprenticeship in trade, credit, and commerce. In 1773, he arrived in New York to attend King's College, the forerunner of today's Columbia University. Swept up in the revolutionary fervor of his adopted country, he dropped out to join the Continental Army. He quickly came to the attention of George Washington, who made him a staff officer. The sonless Washington called the fatherless Hamilton, "my boy." Fellow officers later remembered, "Call Colonel Hamilton," as Washington's instinctive utterance when important news arrived. As Washington's trusted aide, he was involved in every aspect of running the war, including actual fighting where he distinguished himself on multiple occasions. But more than anything, it was his dealings with the weak and indecisive Continental Congress that shaped his political views. The problem with Congress, in Hamilton's view, was that too few members took the idea of nationhood seriously. They quarreled over their narrow interests rather than uniting over the national interests. As the war was winding down, Hamilton laid out the choice before the country in a widely read 6-part essay. "We could become a noble and magnificent federal republic," he wrote, "closely linked in the pursuit of a common interest, or we could stumble ahead as a number of petty states with the appearance only of union." It was clear where Hamilton stood. The speed by which the United States became a unified nation with a cohesive federal government is largely a result of his tireless efforts before, during, and after the Constitutional Convention. Washington named Hamilton, still only 34, to be the first Secretary of the Treasury. He served in the post for almost 6 years. His task was nothing short of Herculean: put the country drowning in war debt and teetering on the edge of bankruptcy on a sound financial footing. He succeeded, and in doing so set the course for America to become the world's most prosperous nation. Historian Leonard White writes that Hamilton was not only the greatest administrative genius of his generation, but one of the great administrators of all time. There's no telling what Hamilton might have achieved had he lived a longer life. Instead, he died one of the most pointless deaths in American history. As hard as it is to fathom today, he was killed in a duel with the Vice President of the United States, Aaron Burr, a man with whom he had a long and bitter political feud. Hamilton fired his pistol harmlessly into the air. He never intended to kill Burr. To Hamilton, it was an affair of honor. But to Burr, it was something else. The vice president took careful aim, shot, and mortally wounded his rival, who spent some 30 hours in agony before succumbing. Hamilton was 49. Hamilton lived in a time when the great danger to the national project was a government that was too weak. We live in a time when many believe that the great danger to the nation is from a national government grown too strong. The ideal, Hamilton would have told us, is somewhere in between. But perhaps America will have to wait for another Hamilton to achieve that happy medium. I'm Joseph Tartakovsky, Senior Fellow at the Claremont Institute for Prager University.
Wow.
Wow. Isn't that an incredible narrative on the life of Alexander Hamilton?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
it-
totally clueless.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know the story, D. Like you said, people are clueless. And only until they encounter Alexander Hamilton today, when they visit St. Croix and have the opportunity to hear from Alexander Hamilton himself, to talk about his life as a child, as a boy, living on St. Croix. And so let's bring in Alexander Hamilton and talk to us a little bit, Alexander Hamilton, about what was your life like here in St. Croix? When people come, what is it you want them to know when they come to St. Croix?
Well, one of the things that I hear about from people today that live here in St. Croix is we have a great deal of diversity on this island, and people get along. And it's been a lot of talk I hear in modern day about diversity. St. Croix was unique back in the day. The Danish allowed for all nationalities to come here and trade. They were neutral. So there were a lot of different nationalities, different languages. There were 5 different denominations here on St. Croix back in the day. All other Caribbean islands in that time, 1765, had one denomination. There was a great deal of diversity as well. There were free slaves here. There were free slave militias. There's an area up in Christiansted, we call it Freegut, where free slaves actually could live and be free. They did have to live in that area. So there was a great deal of diversity. And what about class? You had prostitutes, you had beggars, you had workmen, and then you had the finest carriages and the wealth from the sugar. So you had this great diversity on St. Croix. This was part of the biggest trade route in the world at the time. And St. Croix, because of its neutrality and because of its sugar, we had a great deal, a quantity of sugar, but good quality sugar as well. St. Croix was kind of an epicenter. So there was a lot happening here back in the day when I was a youngster. And I went to work for an import-export company. And I learned a lot about finance. I learned a lot about commerce. You know, I was responsible for starting U.S. Customs. I was responsible for starting the U.S. Coast Guard. And all that learning came from being in Christiansted Harbor with the pirates and the diversity of people. This was an incredibly diverse place, a incredibly happening place. It still is today a very diverse place as well. It all started back then in 1765.
Wow. I know my colleagues are, for the first time, getting a good, if you will, back overview of the life of Alexander Hamilton. And Patrice asked why I am a Hamiltonian. As a former banker, when you're trained in the area of discipline of finance and economics, you understand that this system that has built this country was built, Wall Street, as you know it, our American financial system, our ability to issue debt securities, the architect of that was Alexander Hamilton. And so when I had introduced the idea to create the Virgin Islands Stock Exchange, through my research is when I obviously understood the connection between St. Croix, Alexander Hamilton being one of us, being sent to New York, and later on became one of the founding fathers. And, Patrice, I don't know if that answers your question as to why I am a Hamiltonian. It comes with my training as a banker. And, Alexander Hamilton is responsible for designing the American financial system, better known as Wall Street as you know it today.
And the interesting thing is I was a bastard child. So back in those days, it meant I had no formal education. I was homeschooled. And I learned the ropes right in Christiansted Harbor with the diversity of people here on this island. That gave me the best education I ever got. I went on to college. I went on to serve in Washington's Army. But the most knowledge that I gained for finance and commerce was right here in the Caribbean, in St. Croix.
That the story. Oh, I'm sorry. Patrice.
No, go ahead, Derek. Go ahead, Derek.
So just learning what I've learned in just the past few minutes. Alexander Hamilton completely embodies what America is. The majority of Americans can relate to his life, to his story. And it's interesting that you don't hear as much about Alexander Hamilton and his life and his early portions of his life. You hear about him later in life, but his beginnings. It seems like his beginnings, if there was more emphasis placed on that America would make more sense to so many different people.
That's true. I just want to interject here. I take students around from schools here in St. Croix, and I share with them the fact that I was orphaned. I had no formal education. I lost all my family. My back was against the wall, and I still made something of myself. My example, and even with my policies that I brought with my financial policies, is a lot about meritocracy. I believe that if you worked hard in this country and you stuck to it, you could become somebody. I'm an example of that. I call it meritocracy. I feel like I'm the father of meritocracy. I share that with the children, the youth here in St. Croix, about the fact that I came from nothing. I had nothing, and I made something of myself. And you can do it too, even from this little island here, floating out in the Caribbean. We can contribute to the rest of the world. I think recently I heard Stacey Plaskett. I've been following the modern politics here. I think she said something about we're a small place, but we think big. I think she's got it right about St. Croix.
I wanted to ask about the coming from Nevis to St. Croix to the States. I kind of missed that portion in the video.
Right.
Yeah, I did. I wanted to
Okay.
hear more about St. Croix.
So-
Sorry.
I was
So could
born
you-
and raised. I was born on Nevis, and then my mom had lived here in St. Croix previously. In fact, my mom is buried here in St. Croix. There's an area called Beeston Hill, and a homestead that my aunt and uncle owned called the Grange, and she's actually buried here in St. Croix. But my dad abandoned the family when they came here because my mom had a prior history. We came to St. Croix. But I was 7 years old, so I spent the years from 7 to 17 here in St. Croix. But the interesting thing was I was going nowhere. I was a lowly clerk in an import-export company here, and then a miracle happened. Well, I hate to call it a miracle because it was a tragedy. A hurricane happened here in 1772. I picked up a pen, and I wrote a letter to my dad. That letter was seen by the Reverend at the Presbyterian Church. He insisted that we get it published. The local merchants, including Mr. Kruger, who I work for, recognized the intelligence I had. They took up a scholarship for me and sent me off to New York. And I look back on my life, and if it wasn't for these mentors that I had at the time, you wouldn't see me on a $10 bill today. So that was part of my life here in St. Croix. I got mentored by the Reverend at the Presbyterian Church. I got taught by Mr. Kruger at the Import-Export Company. And that's part of why I came back to St. Croix. They resurrected me, by the way, after 250 years. And I decided, they asked me where I wanted to come. I came for the weather. I came because I wanted to resolve some childhood issues, but I also became because this is the place that made me. These mentors made me what I became later in life in America.
That's great. That's great. Patrice, I'm glad that you brought it up because one of the biggest, I have two of my other colleagues working with me on the Alexander Hamilton Museum project is Michael, renowned author, Michael Newton. He has done extensive research on the life of Alexander Hamilton in his early childhood years. And he's written an incredible book about Alexander Hamilton as a boy in St. Croix. That's a picture of Michael on the screen and the cover of his book. And there's also my other colleague, Rachel Bodner. She wrote also her latest, A Lost Diary of Alexander Hamilton. Both Rachel and Michael are two great authors, and they have two great books. If you want to learn about Alexander Hamilton and the part of the point Patrice made where, as you're listening to his story, there's like a quick blurb over St. Croix. It's like he left Nevis and went to America. There's really not a whole lot about Alexander Hamilton and his time spent, even though, right, Alexander Hamilton, you credit your most formidable stage of your life on
Right
St.
here.
Croix.
Absolutely.
Genesis of the great American experiment and the why America is the largest economy in the world and its capitalist system is what it is. He got his training, Patrice. It started on this little island, obscure island called St. Croix. That's why I am a Hamiltonian, because this man, this boy, I call him Boy Genius, created this great country that we're in, making modern America. Right, Alexander?
That's true. And one other thing I wanted to say is I was an abolitionist my whole life. I started an abolition society in New York in the 1790s. I advised Washington. I wanted to have enslaved people fight in the revolution and be free afterwards. That idea didn't get taken. But there is some controversy about me lately. Some people say, but I learned about enslaved people by dealing with them here on St. Croix. I saw them on the streets in Company Street. I worked with free slaves. I had a totally different opinion, a totally different experience than people like Jefferson and other folks. Unfortunately, I didn't make the impact that I wanted to make in America back in the day. If I had to look back on it, I would have tried harder. But that was because of my experience here, the diversity that I experienced here on St. Croix back in the day. We could talk more about enslaved people here. It's not a pretty picture. What I saw was not a pretty picture. I'm open to questions about it, but I just want to go on the record that I'm an abolitionist. I was a profound abolitionist my whole life.
And that my colleagues is one of the most controversial areas of the story of Alexander Hamilton. You will hear those on either side said he was a true abolitionist, and then you'll hear those who oppose will say he was not a true abolitionist. And so it's an ongoing debate that takes place, and it's even implied the fact that his wife, not his wife, his mother divorced her husband, which was not Alexander, not his father, but the person she married subsequently. And once she did that, she got imprisoned. And Patrice and Derek, the Fort Christiansted is where his mother was imprisoned because she wanted a divorce from her husband. Right, Alex?
Yeah, my mom was. She was called a loose woman, and her husband at the time was an amateur psychologist, I guess. He thought he put her in jail, she'd come right back to him. And of course, my mother was too strong for that. She took off, went back to New York. That's where she met my dad. But there were some slaves, enslaved folks that were owned by that gentleman. And in fact, my mom's family had herself inherited a few enslaved folks as well. But I never in my whole life owned slavery or took part in slavery, despite what some historians are starting to rewrite these days.
An interesting piece of information when you look at why the U.S. territories are unable to have certain voting rights, or we are American citizens by birth, but as long as we reside in the territory, we cannot vote for president in the general election, or if we choose to run for president, we would have to leave the territory and live on the mainland in order to be able to be elected or to run for president and being part of the mainland itself. But it is said that, right, Alex, that one of the reasons why the law that's on the books, unless you are a native born or born in the United States, you see other people running for governor and different public office. They were not born here in the country, but they can run for other office. But if you're not born in the United States, you cannot run for president. Right, Alex?
That's right. That's right. Yep. That's true.
So, yeah. So I would like to, when we come back after this break, I want you to talk a little bit about your tour, Alex. I want you to talk about your tour, because I want people, when they watch and listen to this, they need to know who to contact, how to contact you, what they can expect when you go on tour, when they visit St. Croix, to come and meet the man himself, the man Alexander himself in person. We'll take a break. We'll be right back.
Okay.
used to watch BET, MTV, VH1, now I watch Tempo. Soca, Calypso, reggae dance, oh, don't stall, better get tuned in to the tempo. Don't have cable, they got an app. Go to your app store, download that. Whether it's tourism, cuisine, or the social scenes, if it ain't tempo, it's a rap. Who got the Caribbean views? Tempo. It's the latest in Caribbean news. Tempo. You tryna cook Caribbean food? Tempo. You know they got the music videos too. Tempo. Who got the Caribbean views? Tempo. It's the latest in Caribbean news. Tempo. You tryna cook Caribbean food? Tempo. You know they got the music videos too. Tempo.
All right, so folks, we have a special guest with us this evening. We have none other than himself, the Alexander Hamilton, one of the country's founding father, live and direct in person on the show with us. Alexander Hamilton, welcome back to the Muse. So, in the final couple of minutes that we have, so if we want to learn more about your life and the time that you spent on St. Croix, and kind of tell us how do we know where to find you, how to get in touch with you, and then when we come, give us an idea of the kind of tour that you're going to give us in the life of Alexander Hamilton.
Super. So I have a website. My agent did that for me. I don't know what that exactly means, but it's called Eyes of Hamilton. Eyes, EYES of Hamilton.com. And on that website, you get all the information about how to contact me. And then when we sign you up for a tour, one of the things about St. Croix, we are a small island, but we have such a history here. People come here for our beauty, for our beaches, for the weather. But the buildings here, the Danish came here in 1733. And a lot of the buildings are still here. And so I take people down Company Street, one of the main streets in Christiansted. I show them where I lived, where I worked, some of the history of the buildings. The Danish West Indian building, for example, there's some photos up there, the 1750s. The architecture, the history here is rich. And I think the world needs to know about us. And so that's what I'm trying to promote. Don't just come to St. Croix for the weather and the beaches, although they're fantastic and dying. Come learn about our history. And then along the way, so I take them down Company Street. I show them where I went to church, where I lived. I take them where I learned to write better at the Presbyterian Church. And then I end up at the Import-Export Company, which has the only plaque of me in Christiansted. We're trying to get people involved to have more of a sign around the areas where I lived and worked and the things that took place. But it's really a tour about my life. I talk in depth about what I went through. My mom died in my arms at the age of 10. I talk about writing that letter and finding out that I'm going to go to New York. In the play, they say in New York, you can be a new man. Well, you bet when I go on that boat, I wanted to be somebody. That's one of the things that drove me back in the day. I really wanted to be somebody, and I had that opportunity. So I get into all the details of my life, my relationship with my mom, some of my history of my dad and mom, but also a lot about the history, the rich history of St. Croix. It was the golden area, 765 to 1800, the sugar plantations. I talk about enslaved, my experience there. I show them where Freegut is and where some of the cottages in Freegut, enslaved were free, except they could only build the cottages about 36 by 36. So I show them some of that. Christiansted was well mapped out in 1733 by the Danes. In fact, it was mapped out after Oslo, of all places, over there on the other side of the water. So there's so much to see historically. and there's such a rich life that I have, and I like to share it with people. So come to St. Croix, come enjoy our beaches, come enjoy our food. That's another thing. We have a lot of history, but we have a lot of great food here. And take a walking tour with me. I'll show you the places where I lived and where I worked.
What are some of the questions that people ask you when they come on the tour? Like, what are they most curious about?
Well, it's interesting. People ask me what it felt like when my mom died, for example. But I do get a lot of questions about, for example, what was it like if you walked down the street on Company Street back in the day? Questions like that. And I say to them, this was a happening place. There were animals everywhere. There were smells everywhere. You know, you could walk, there were 17 taverns in Christiansted. There were women walking up and down the street with fresh bread on their heads. There were places where you could stop, like lemonade and coconut water stands. There were 2 dancing schools in Christiansted. So people dig in and ask me what it was like, what was happening, describe what I would see as I walk down the street. And I often talk a lot, as I said here already, about the diversity. So those are a lot of the questions. And I get some questions like, I went to live with an uncle who committed suicide. And some people want to know the details of that. I don't like to talk about it, but some of those specific questions people do ask as well.
Cool.
I would like to know what was the biggest challenge, Alexander Hamilton, in founding the country, whether it's just the politics of it, the people you worked with, the labor involved. Like, what was the biggest challenge you had, and then what was your greatest achievement?
Well, my greatest achievement, other people give me a lot of credit for starting the financial system of America, but the Constitution was passed by the convention, but it needed to be ratified by the colonies, and it didn't look good. So I came up with the idea called the Federalist Papers. Those Federalist Papers have been referred to 200 times by the U.S. Supreme Court. Since then, they're used in the impeachment hearings recently. They were advertisements to get the Constitution passed. I see that as my greatest accomplishment, the Federalist Papers. If you haven't looked at them, take a look at them. It was laborious. I enlisted John Jay and Madison to help me, but Jay got sick. I ended up writing 50 of those. In fact, my wife told somebody that I was on a sloop on my way to visit my in-laws in Albany up the Hudson. And there I was in the sloop writing the Federalist Papers. That's my greatest accomplishment. It got the Constitution passed, and we got this country off and running. The other thing about your question is, there's a guy named Jefferson. Boy, did he give me a hard time. He wanted this country to be a place of farmers. And, you know, we had these powerful countries in Europe. We couldn't afford that. We had to develop some commerce. We had to be economically strong. And so they called me names. They even picked on me. They called me names about my upbringing in St. Croix. That was pretty hard, those personal attacks. It was pretty ugly back in those days. I hope I answered your question.
You certainly did.
Wait, one more question, because I want to know, when you went to New York, did you have a Crucian accent?
Well, you know,
They make fun of your accent.
they say that I had kind of a Creole accent, and I believe that I did. I was pretty hyperactive. I was a fast talker, but you know, I believe I had part of a Creole accent. That's what they told me when I got there.
You
I
probably
wasn't aware of
licked
it.
them with some Crucian bad words.
No, she didn't with the did you snap the finger?
Well, I had the resiliency of the Crucians, and yeah, and I also I could lime. I was a limer. I knew how to talk to people. I was around very powerful people before I became powerful. I could hang with them because I just knew from my background how to lie with people.
Could I ask Wayne a question?
Sure.
Why Alexander Hamilton?
Well,
I think I know why, but tell me why.
Well, why? Because one day I had read the book, I heard the play. I'm driving down Company Street, and I heard that Hamilton lived on Company Street, number 34 Company Street. I said to myself, I want to find out where that is. And so I started doing some research. It comes alive. It comes right off the page, his life, as you walk down and you start to learn these things. And then I'm sort of semi-retired. So my friend said, hey, buddy, you know what? You ought to do a tour because you got to do something with yourself. You know, you ought to be doing something with yourself. So I started giving a tour. but I just lectured. And then a friend of mine who's in theater said, "Oh, wait a minute, man. With a play, you don't sing and you don't dance. You got to become Alexander Hamilton." And here I am. I dress up. I got buckles on my shoes. And I have finally learned on the tour to stay in the first person. You know, people ask me questions like, well, what about this and that? What do you do now? And I say, hey, I'm just back from the dead. So I stay in role. I stay in role. And my greatest compliment is after the end of a tour, a woman said to me, "I got to tell you, Alexander, I actually thought you were Alexander halfway through the tour." That was the best compliment I get. And by the way, it's a very uplifting tour. And when we end the tour, I get a standing ovation. You know why? They're all standing anyway.
And guess what? I like the fact that you're on the $10 bill. I mean, I think that's a cool look.
Isn't that great?
I think it's pushed up a little bit, but it's a good look of you on the $10 bill, man.
Yeah, I was known as a pretty handsome guy. Now, I don't know, I don't know modern Crucian culture, but they say I was kind of a ladies' man. I don't remember that. It's 250 years ago, so I can't really speak to that now. But that's some people say that about me. I just don't remember it.
Did you have children?
Go ahead.
I had 8 beautiful children. And I even adopted a 9th children. Yeah, I had 8 children.
Oh my goodness!
And my wife was wonderful. You know, my wife, when I came back to, they dug me up. She lived 50 years longer than I did, and she lived to the ripe old age of 96. She hired 30 researchers to try to dig up my papers, resurrect my name, because I made kind of a stink back in the day with the opposition, and also she started the first a private orphanage in New York City. And then later in life, when she was old, she moved to Washington, D.C. And I'm told that all the new presidents, when they were inaugurated, after they were in office, they'd always invite Mrs. Hamilton to the White House. She was an extraordinary lady. I've got good advice for everybody. A good man has a great lady. And I married a wonderful, wonderful lady. Beautiful, strong, smart. In fact, if you dig into my history, you'll find out that without my mom, I wouldn't have the intelligence I have. I wouldn't have accomplished half of what I've accomplished.
As you leave us, let me say thank you, Alexander Hamilton, for spending some time with us, and also the connection to entertainment. Let me just share it. I would be remiss if I didn't share this. I mean, this guy is so cool. He's like the coolest founding father that they had to make a play after this guy. And his play says Hamilton, an American musical, is a sung and rapped through musical by Lin-Manuel Miranda. It tells the story of an American founding father, Alexander Hamilton. Miranda said he was inspired to write the musical after reading the 2004 biography, Alexander Hamilton, by Ron Chernow. The show draws heavily from a hip-hop as well as R&B, pop, soul, and traditional style show tunes. It's cast non-white actors as the founding fathers and other historical figures. Miranda described Hamilton as about American then, as told by American now. From its opening, Alexander Hamilton received a critical acclaim. It premiered off Broadway on February 17, 2015, at the Public Theater, where its several months engagement was sold out. The musical won 8 Drama Desk Award, including Outstanding Musical. It then transferred to the Richard Rodgers Theater on Broadway, opening on August 6, 2015, where it received uniformly positive reviews and high box office sales. At the 2016 Tony Awards, Hamilton received a record-breaking 16 nominations and won 11 awards, including Best Musical. It received in 2016 Pulitzer Prize for Drama. Listen, man, this guy is so cool. That's the kind of accolade that he gets as a founding father. I want to thank you, Alexander, for being part of it.
I want to say one thing. In Broadway, they say, it comes out and he says, "I'm Alexander Hamilton. There's a lot of things I haven't done, but just you wait and see." And I hope you folks will come down to St. Croix and visit with me. I'd love to show you our beautiful island. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, man.
Awesome.
Coming up is our man, Lando Lakes. I'm going to call him Lando Lakes. He doesn't know I'm going to call him Lando Lakes, but when we come back, we'll hear from our good friend, Lando.
Everybody know me. It's like I'm a movie star. Hey, what's up, y'all? It's me, Lando, and everybody know me. Welcome to Keeping It Real, where we answer real questions to real people and hope that our answers don't get your ass whooped. All right, Lady Lando, looking all good. Baby, what's going on? What's today's question?
How should you handle a toxic family member?
How should you handle a toxic family member? You got to disown their ass. You got to get away from them, man. You can't keep toxic family members around you because all they're going to do is pull you down. Name one good thing that toxins did for your body. Name one good thing that toxins have done for you. Ain't nothing good about toxin. Think about the Toxic Avenger. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, it's bad for you, especially family members. Now, see, here's where the problem comes in with family members. You can't choose who your brother is, your mama, your sister, your cousin. You can't choose your grandmama, your grandpapa. You can't choose nobody in your family. They just who you get. You understand? So if you got a toxic family member, you just got to do the very best you can to try to live your life as far away from their ass as possible. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, because come on, man. When you around people that's toxic, they got all that negative energy. It just pulls from you. You know, you might say, yeah, I'll give you an example. You get up in the morning and you're feeling good and life is treating you well. The sun is shining on you. You done got up, you done brushed your teeth, you done ate a bowl of Cheerios, and everything is just wonderful. You're living life is good, you're happy, and all is well. You go out in the front of the house, your sister's out in the front of the house. She in a pissing mood. You understand what I'm saying? She done slept bad because the springs was stabbing her in the back. You understand? And you know, her Cheerios got soggy because she was in the bathroom and she couldn't get out to the bowl of cereal fast enough, and now her Cheerios soggy. So now she in a pissing mood. She toxic. She always in a bad mood. Now here you come. You say good morning, she grumble at you. Now you got two choices. First choice is you can grumble back at her. The next thing you know, y'all in some kind of argument because she done said something and now you done said something, and now this person is an asshole, and you never know if somebody being swung on somebody and then the furniture broke. You understand what I'm saying? Or your other option is you can just leave that toxic ass individual alone. You just walk away from him. You can go right on past him. You ain't got to be bothered with him. You can say, well, you know what? I did my part. I said hello, good morning, good to see you. And you ain't say nothing, so you can kiss my ass. So all you got to do is get away from toxic energy. So if you got toxic family members, the best suggestion that I can give you, because I'm just keeping it real, is just leave the Toxic Avenger asses alone. You ain't got time to be bothered with no negative energy. You understand me? Get on with your life, find your happy place, and go on and live your life and be happy. Just like Bobby McFerrin said, don't worry. Be happy. All right, y'all, that's all I got. Y'all have a good day. All right. my bullets? You see my
Let-
bullets? You got the...
Lando,
I told Lady Lando. I
Lando,
have cousins at the house. What's going on, Android? Peace, how you doing?
I've been back here dancing, man. I love that beat.
Well, you know, hold on. Watch this. Oh, you see that come through on the other side? Boy, y'all don't know nothing about that. What's going on?
Wait, Lando, did you
Yeah.
just call me Android? Did
Yeah,
you
yeah.
call me Android?
That's your name. I apologize, dude. I apologize.
Hey, he is an Android. He's an Android. He ain't got no iPhone. He's an Android.
I know. That's why I know. That's why I call him that. I told him. I told him. He was talking to Derek earlier. Derek said something about his forehead was blinding him in the sun. He thought it was the glare on the TV screen, but it was actually his glass in his forehead.
Lando.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I thought family was everything, man. What's with the toxic family member? What is that? Family is
Listen,
everything, man.
Listen, family is everything, but they also problematic as well. You know what I'm saying? Wait, what that echo? You hear that echo?
What echo?
I don't hear nothing. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I'll just see if you were paying attention to me. Family is everything.
It's that cigarette. You gotta put that cigarette away.
I told if it ain't the cigarette, Patrice. That's all I'm saying.
Put that back.
Oh. That's all I'm saying.
So listen.
Yeah.
So your advice is when you have a member of the family is toxic, you just like you just like jettison them, right? You just cut them off.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, they gotta go. They got to leave. They can't stay around you, man. They ruin you, man. They suck all the life out of you. It used to be a movie out. It was a while back. It was by Stephen King. It was called Thinner. You remember that movie? You ever see that movie where they would touch somebody and they would say thinner, and they just suck all the life out of them. That's what toxic family members do to you, man. They suck all the life out of you. They suck it. They just do you in. So what you need them for?
So are you telling me I should get rid of Uncle Harry?
You should have got rid of him a long time ago. If you got to ask. And don't give him no bus fare neither. Make his ass walk.
But wait a minute, Uncle Harry only comes around. He comes around during special occasion. I mean, why can't I put up with him because he's not around? Only on special occasions.
I mean, listen, Android. You got to do what's best for you. You got to do what's best for you. If you like Uncle, what's his name?
Harry.
Uncle Harry. You like Uncle Harry. You like Uncle Harry well enough to put up with his ass on holidays. I don't want nobody ruining my holidays. He don't need to come around.
Well, so you don't cuss them out.
Oh, every chance I get. I Kirk Franklin the hell out of him. Hey, listen, let's talk about that for just a second, okay? Now, everybody all up in arms about how Kirk Franklin talked to his son, but his son grown. You can't talk to grown people the same way you talk to kids. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. It makes sense if people's all up in arms and his son was two.
I missed that one. I didn't. What's going on with Kirk Franklin? I missed that one.
Oh, you got to goggle that, man. You just got to goggle it. I can't even play it. You got to goggle it, man. Just go to your computer and type in goggle.
Goggle
it.
Yeah, goggle it.
Let me get him up to speed once. So Kirk and his son was having an argument. His son is 33 now. He and 13 33. They was having an argument. I did miss the argument. I didn't see that video, but I saw that apology. So apparently the son pulled out his phone and recorded it. And apparently, according to my conversation with Lando earlier, Kirk laced him with bad words.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
and
yeah.
He's a man of the church.
Exactly.
So
wow.
And then he came out and he apologized and he asked for forgiveness and he said we are human and he's going through some stuff. What his son didn't show was how he called the therapist and tried to work it out. So he said,
look at black folks don't call therapists, first of all, so that's a whole bunch of malarkey right there. Black folks, that's the last thing we gonna do is call a therapist, especially if they don't look like us. You can't have everybody dealing with black folks' problems now. Black folks got to deal with black folks' problems. You can't just have random people dealing with your issues now. You got to have some of your own in there because they understand the depths of it. You understand what I'm saying? The depths of it. Yes. I was trying to depths of it. You understand what I'm saying?
So wait, what do you call that thing when you do the search again? When you want to search up something on the
You
internet?
goggle it. You goggle it, man. You act like you don't know how to goggle nothing. Man, Goggle been all over the place, man. Goggling took over Yahoo.
Oh, you can say Yahoo, but you can't.
Yeah, it took all over. But Goggle, you had to, man. You got the goggle stuff, man. Everybody goggling. You
Yeah, it's Google.
huh?
Google.
It's Google.
Google.
Yeah, Google.
You pretty? No, I'm pretty sure that say goggle. I'm pretty sure that say goggle.
But anyway, go look it up for real, Tony, though, because
Yeah, look it up, Tony. Goggling.
the apology. I mean, I don't know. It was kind of heartfelt to me, Lando. I don't know.
No. Wasn't no hard feel. This is all a publicity stunt anyway. You know, he got a special coming out around Easter time. You know how them celebrities do.
Wait, what?
He got a special coming out. He trying to get some publicity. You know, when was the last time you heard something from Kirk Franklin?
Easter time is coming. He's trying to get some publicity.
That's all it is, man. Him and the Easter Bunny competing. He know he can't keep up with the Easter Bunny. So he got to do something. The Easter Bunny ain't got no kids to cuss out that I know of. And if he do, they black, because you know all the Easter Bunny do is poop out chocolate candy. So you know he got to have black babies too. So he probably trying to outdo the Easter Bunny. You understand what I'm saying?
Well, listen,
Like fix my life kind of thing, like Ileana fix my life. You think?
Don't
Like,
let Ileana fix your life. Don't do it. Don't call her Ileana. She got too many consonants in her name.
Lando Lake, real quick because we run out of time. So do you think?
Wait, hold. Did you say my government name?
Oh, no, Lando. I said Lando.
I'm pretty sure you said my government name. Now we're
running out of time. Wait, we're running out of time. So
okay, go ahead, man.
Do you think Kim Kardashian is going to leave? What's his name now? Kanye West now that he's the richest black person in America at $6.6 billion.
wait, when did that happen? What?
When that happened?
Today.
Hold on. I gotta make a phone call. Hold on.
Kanye
West is worth $6.6 billion. He is now the richest black person in America.
Hold on.
Kim Kardashian's going to leave him now.
Hold on. Hello. Can Yeezy. Yeah, Lando. What's this I hear about you being the rich? You know you still owe me $30.
Let me hold something, please.
No, first of all, hold on. I'm on the air right now. I'm gonna call you back, Yeezy. He still owe me $30. How he the richest man? And Kim should have left him a long time ago. Because if he had left him, then Kardashian's last name would have been Lakes. That name would have been Kim Lakes. Kimmy Lakes. No, I don't like that. I'm gonna stick with Lady Lando. I love my wife anyway. I'm just messing with y'all. I don't mess around.
Well, folks, it's been real. It has been real. I listen, as always, I love hanging out with you, Lando. Until next week, guys.
Same here, Android. I appreciate it.
All right, folks. Have a good night now. This is the Views. Next week.
Dream State killing them.